All right, I think we can get started. Welcome everyone, and thanks for joining today. I'm Nate Fleming, Chief Marketing Officer at Bamboo Rose, and also the monitor of today's session. I want to start by saying we've been absolutely floored by the attention and engagement that this webinar has received. We at Bamboo Rose have always been passionate students of this critical function in the value chain and continuously geek out on newer trends and ideas in sourcing. We wanted to take this opportunity to bring some of our experts and business leaders in sourcing to the table to talk about what they are seeing in these truly dynamic times. We also want you, the attendee, to participate in the conversation. There's a questions pane on the right side of your screen, and we invite you to submit questions there. We'll field as many questions as we can at the end of this webinar, and if we don't get to you live, we'll follow up directly via email. Before we jump into the content, I'd like to invite on our two panelists today. Luke Matthews, SVP of Global Services, and Chirag Patel, President of Bamboo Rose. Thanks for joining, guys.
Thanks, Nate.
Thanks Nate. Happy to be here.
Great. So I wouldn't be a head of marketing if I didn't do a quick introduction on who Bamboo Rose is for those who might not be familiar with us. Bamboo Rose is a multi-enterprise platform that supports retailers and brands across product categories and global markets. With over 20 years experience helping clients bring innovative products to market, we've worked with retailers like American Eagle, Gap, and Kaufland on product innovation and development, sourcing, supplier management, quality and compliance, purchase order management, and global trade management. We leverage our multi-enterprise platform architecture to seamlessly connect a retailer's business partners to collaborate, transact, improve margins, and accelerate time to market. Our platform contains 5 business process applications, which you'll see along the right side of the screen, including a B2B marketplace, PLM, sourcing, of course, our focus today, order management, and global trade management, allowing for full visibility throughout the product and supply chain lifecycle. So Chirag, before I hand it over to you, I want to set the stage a bit on what we're seeing in terms of industry disruption and the impact it's having on legacy sourcing strategies. So in terms of challenges, we're seeing clients and prospects encounter issues with surety of supply, trouble accessing everything from raw materials to production capacity to labor and transportation. Those supply issues are being compounded by supply chain disruptions, which impact trade routes, freight capacity, and force retailers and brands to diversify their sourcing geographies. At the same time, clients and prospects are also encountering competitive pressures from direct-to-consumer brands that are bringing product to market quickly that consumers expect, as well as from massive marketplaces like Amazon, who are standing up private brands in new product categories at a rapid pace to eat up market share. Amongst all this, companies are also reckoning with new environmental, social, and governance requirements driven by customers as well as regulators that are forcing retailers and brands to examine their extended supply chain networks with deeper scrutiny. So amidst these challenges, we're still seeing a lot of legacy sourcing strategies out in the market that include siloed practices between design, development, and sourcing functions that result in layers of inefficiency, longer cycle times, and miscommunication. Approaches that are highly focused on the lowest possible cost as opposed to a balance of quality, risk, and cost. And an over-reliance on static supplier bases to reduce complexity, despite the negative impact that might have on sourcing resilience and diversification. So Chirag, will you just take a moment now to speak on how these challenges are causing some of the organizations you're working with to evolve their sourcing strategies?
Yeah, thanks, Nate. We've seen a trend for about 5 to 7 years, but especially accelerated in the last couple of years, where there's been more of a modern approach to global sourcing. What I mean by that is there's a more of a shift towards data-driven and science-based approach to global sourcing, where a broader set of analytical models are used to make optimal decisions. And also a lot of macro environmental factors are taken into account, such as fluctuations in currency rates and commodity prices. And historical data is now being leveraged to forecast cost and supply plans versus just reacting it, based on just last year data. So we're also seeing a shift in skill sets actually in the modern sourcing function from a traditional operations role where you're simply following a sequence of steps that are predefined in probably an outdated product development and sourcing calendar, and you're doing very minimal analysis, to that of an analyst, where the data and analytics models are more fully leveraged. So you're making highly insightful decisions. And a larger trend as well is what we call community digitization. All members of the global community, your designers, product managers, merchants, sourcing, and all your external partners like raw material suppliers, factories, mills, inspectors, I mean, over 27 types of enterprises and their users are on a single platform or network collaborating with each other. This ensures that everybody's aligned and in sync.
Great, thanks, Chirag. So our goal today is to explore a few specific concepts and trends that Chirag just started to touch on, which contribute to what we're calling next-gen sourcing. These are strategies built in the mix of technology, process, and organizational transformation that we see as foundational for successful sourcing organizations over the next 3 to 5 years. There are certainly other sourcing themes and approaches that we discuss with clients in the market, and we look forward to covering those on future webinars and white papers and at events in the market. But with that, let's jump into the questions in a little more detail. Chirag talked during the introduction about new approaches to sourcing and engaging the community for deeper insights. Luke, can you talk about that concept specific to cost and how you're seeing clients better understand landed costs earlier in the product lifecycle?
Sure, thanks, Nate. So what we've seen over the years is that traditionally sourcing practices have been too focused on guesstimating landed costs with averaging factors versus managing partners and additional data points to drive a highly accurate estimated landed cost early in the sourcing process. We really believe that landed cost calculations during the sourcing process must be as granular as possible to ensure accuracy and margin analysis and drive optimized buying decisions. At Bamboo Rose, we have clients with thorough EOC analysis that has led to variance in ELC and ALC when inventory is received of less than 100 basis points. It's really an industry-leading metric there. So if we look at the full picture of holistic costing, the first step in holistic costing is driving a granular view of estimated landed costs by layering the numerous fixed and variable costs on top of first costs, such as duty, freight, partner fees like middleman or bank fees, and supply chain costs such as storage, transport, or handling. Really furthermore, there's no such thing as a one-size-fits-all for cost modeling. Modeling of landed costs should be localized to markets or channels with specific duty, freight, and upcharges. Additionally, they should be specific to divisions or departments if they differ. You're not going to run the same type of cost modeling for a hardline patio category versus softlines apparel. We have clients in high volume, low gross margin categories that have upwards of 16 cost variables calculated real time for each product across tens of thousands of products per year. Our award-winning ELC engine provides this capability. The next step in driving towards holistic costing is starting to decompose your first cost by going down to BOM or formulation level details such as fabric, components, ingredients, packaging, labor, or even any surcharges applicable to the move or transport of raw materials to production sites. So what we just discussed lays the foundation for more advanced and even scientific models to negotiate costs via different costing analysis methods. By reviewing historical first costs, ELC, and BOM costing details, we can compare against historical data to derive a heuristic methodology to recommend what the target negotiated first cost should be for a product being sourced. For example, a product should have a 5% reduction in first costs last year based upon lower cost of raw material and efficiencies in the manufacturing process after multiple runs. What we're now offering is not just heuristics models, but the application of data science like machine learning and AI to recommend optimized should-be costs. By having a holistic view of costs, the platform is able to not only recommend the first cost, but analyze cost components and provide recommendations. In addition to should-cost modeling, next-gen sourcing leaders also look at costs not only at unit level, but in aggregate buckets like department, program, supplier, or country of origin. Layering on top of such aggregate view is the ability to execute what-if scenarios and see how margins are affected by different disruptions. Maybe you're changing the mode of transport from ocean to air if you're chasing an order. Or maybe you're going to evaluate changing the finished goods supplier and analyzing the cost benefit or implication of changing the country of origin based on tariff or positioning of your raw materials. So really, if we look at holistic costing, it's really tackling a deeper level and a broader level of data to give you more actionable insights.
Luke, great explanation there. There's one thing I kind of want to dive into that sounded interesting to me. You mentioned kind of modeling out different scenarios and using data intelligence to make decisions based on your criteria or priorities in those scenarios in terms of cost and partner. we've obviously seen a lot of clients talking about environmental social governance and sustainability initiatives. And are they able to build some of those criteria into those models as well?
Yeah, that's a great question, Nate. So, really at the core of what we just discussed about holistic costing is, how a multi-enterprise platform empowers enterprises to connect more data sources and provide more insights to make better decisions. The first step in advancing your ESG initiatives is to ensure all nodes of the supply chain are connected as a digital community. We've all heard about the push to move beyond tier one vendors, and this is vital for ESG. For example, if you're an apparel brand, you need to have your agents, factories, mills, spinners, and raw material sources all connected in the platform. By connecting your community, this allows you to set and measure expectations clearly and ensure the transactions are equitable for all parties involved.
Great, thanks, Luke. So moving along, Luke helped to cover that concept of deeper costing specific to product. I now want to look a little bit more broadly at the supply chain community. So Chirag, would you mind talking a bit about what the opportunity is to bring suppliers and other business partners onto the platform? How does that impact their operations and their ability to move with agility as they work with those partners more closely?
Yeah, absolutely. And as Luke just mentioned, and we have sort of defined from the onset of the conversation, we at Bamboo Rose have always underscored the importance of a multi-enterprise platform or a connected digital community. This is where your physical ecosystem of partners, the internal, external enterprises that we talked about earlier, and that includes over thousands of users and hundreds of roles, are digitally interacting to create product from the point of ideation to delivery to markets. So such a network, or what we call a digital twin, fosters an environment where it drives value for everyone on the network. For instance, this community can collectively build and share assets, a product specification, for example, where product specialists, designers, vendors collaborate to build out a full spec or item details, and then share that in real time with everyone else on the platform, your sourcing teams, your QA teams, your component suppliers, and so on. And this community works not just in real time, but also simultaneously. So for example, if that product specialist would like to change a component, the sourcing team can immediately be alerted to the change, start looking at the best supplier for this component and analyze the scorecard and the competency of those different suppliers and determine what are the best options. The QA team can in turn, in real time, be alerted to start preparing for a whole new set of tests that they want to run. All of this is happening in parallel. All these old sequential steps and lags are removed and driving speed in your digital network. Also, the collaboration is in multi-layers. This means that not only are you collaborating with your vendor, but your vendor directly is collaborating with inspection companies or to schedule quality visits, or factories to working with your mills to plan fabric movement on the network without any involvement from your side. All nodes in the network at all levels are operating with each other. And we know that we've seen clients gain impressive results by having their entire sourcing community on the platform. One of our clients, a leading department store retailer, drove a 30% reduction in cycle time from point of product development start through sourcing finalization. And this is all in the midst of a 50% reduction in the team size. We also have vendors that we work with directly that have seen their cost of sale and cost of servicing a customer go down as much as 80% because they're all connected digitally and driving a lot of efficiency. So net, a connected digital community or a digital twin delivers return on investment for every participant on the platform.
Great, Chirag. I think that's a great point, that consistent ROI across the community. So I want to keep going on this theme a bit more. I'd imagine as you bring on all these new partners and start to connect different teams and the data that comes with those teams and processes, it must introduce a lot of data complexity to your tech infrastructure. So how do you see clients able to manage this data intelligently and pragmatically so they can get the most value out of it?
Yeah, Nate, what we're sort of seeing is, a transition from like a business intelligence tool or a data layer to the advent of, so-called control towers. In our point of view of a control tower, that it has a few core functions. The first is to scan each user decision, activity, all the relevant data on the network within the purview of the control tower. For example, a supply chain operations control tower or a sourcing control tower. Then there's the visualization layer where any deviation from a predefined goal or criteria is flagged And as an exception, it is brought to the attention of the participants in the control tower so they can be resolved. Additionally, and this is sort of the next generation of control towers, is the capability to execute advanced analytics and even run AI engines to recommend the optimal resolution. So it's all about visualization, alerts, recommendation, and resolution on the control tower. But what we believe is that, and this is really important, the control tower hinges on the breadth and depth of the underlying digital community. It is a volume of multiple roles, users, transactions, data, timelines that is captured on the platform that drives the accuracy and insights that's presented in the control tower. So in other words, though the visualization capability and AI capability are important, a control tower is only as good as the digital community it is scanning. So here's an example on this screen here of a sourcing and production focused control tower that we are in the process of advancing. What you see here is the control tower logic interrogates all the details related to a product. It looks at the buy plan or the assortment plan over a time period, such as a month or season. It then correlates that to the raw material availability over the same timeline. It's also evaluating simultaneously the factory or vendor production capabilities over the same timeline. The control tower will continuously scan for balance, but if there's an exception, for example, the factory production capacity in month 3 is less than the product buy plan or the PO plan in the same month, then report the exception. In a recommendation model, the engine or the control tower engine will then start recommending shifting production to other factories with the right capacity, recalculate costs and timelines, and show the impact on cost and deliveries at the end of the day. So this is just an example of the different types of exceptions, resolutions, and processes that a control tower can scan and keep in balance. Additional constraints could be added, for example, vendor compliance status, transportation capacity for deeper scanning and exceptions. This is really a highly exciting area for us at Bambros that we're advancing. This is where the digital community, their actions, the data that they build, the assets they build, the physical constraints, and AI engines all intersect.
Great, thanks, Chirag. So, I think you talked a lot about predicting issues, getting alerts for issues that are happening so you can react quickly, beginning to drive recommendations. Luke, I think the next stage here is automation in terms of that data maturity. How do you see clients starting to actually automate processes and reduce administrative costs and errors?
Thanks, Nate. So, we're really at an exciting time with intelligence and automation. So, to set the table first, what we've covered today are really a progressive build of intelligence. Holistic costing to manage the depth and breadth of your data, connected community via your digital twin, and visibility to actionable insights via control tower. These lay the foundation for an enterprise to move away from high-frequency, low-value interactions into intelligent and autonomous sourcing processes. It's really the holy grail of where enterprises want to be, because this is where repeatable, predictable decisions are automated, moving towards a lights-out operation and making team members more focused and productive. We've got a few interesting use cases in the field of where we've applied such automation. You can auto award business for vendor bids that align within your tolerances for materials, components, packaging costs, labor, and margin targets, or auto generate another round of bidding responses from a vendor if that target cost is not met. Additionally, we've got a customer that initiates intelligent sampling requests based on calendar milestones. You trigger automatic requests for samples for the right products, colors, and sizes to the appropriate vendors, eliminating the need for a user to have manual intervention to drive such tasks. So today, I'd say at Bambros, we really believe we've arrived at the crossroads of art and science and sourcing. Intelligent and autonomous sourcing processes will continue to evolve as more and more members of the value chain continue their digital transformations and more information is available to advance the cognitive intelligence.
Got it. One thing I remember as a former industry analyst in the technology space was there's a lot of trepidation about automating tasks to remove some of that human control. Are there ways that you manage that with clients?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, I think there's always a lot of anxiety when you're faced with change and especially digital transformation. So at Bamboo Rose, we always preach a walk, run, fly approach when adopting new processes. It's just really vital when adding in automations, because whenever you layer in automation, you want to start out with exception-driven workflow to build trust first, and then graduate to a workflow automation like automatic bid approval, where the data richness, the historical information are going to enrich the science that you put behind that automation.
Got it. Great. So we're going to move on to key takeaways now. But I do want to remind everyone to please submit any questions you have, because in about 3 or 4 minutes we'll probably start taking those questions. So please feel free to submit those in the questions pane. Before we get there, the first key takeaway centers on that holistic cost of product and making sure you do that work up front to get that holistic cost. Luke, I was hoping you could understand a little bit more about what you mean when you say upfront. What type of activities does that require?
Sure, Nate. So I think really the key to all this is being able to tackle the data. So doing the work up front is key to enabling your sourcing decision makers to make the best sourcing decision and ultimately deliver predictable margin. Technology should help aid your teams manage a broader and deeper set of data. For example, we've got a customer that's a global athleisure brand, and they did a lot of work up front with the partnership with strategic suppliers, agreeing on negotiated tolerances for certain aspects like labor. And then they went and implemented the holistic costing, where they brought in the BOM level costing and automation to match and align to those tolerances that were preset. So by taking that holistic costing approach, that brand has seen a 15% gross margin improvement, even through the supply chain disruptions that we've all been reading about.
Got it. Thanks, Luke. Thanks for that extra context. So in the digital twin key takeaway, we talk about the need to kind of use that multi-enterprise approach to build that digital twin. Chirag, can you talk a bit about how some of our leading clients have managed major disruptive events, such as the early stages of the pandemic, using that kind of full view of their community and engagement and collaboration with their community?
Yeah, the digital twin, multi-enterprise platform, a connected digital community, at the end of the day, all synonymous terms, it means that you bring agility within your entire organization ecosystem. So I'll give you a great example. One of our near and dear client partners, that's a leading specialty retailer, global, in over 55 countries, and like everybody else, in the last couple of years, we're challenged with a sudden drop in demand due to the pandemic, when they close a lot of their channels and the brick and mortar stores, and had to rethink what do we do now going forward to sort of navigate the pandemic. And the board of directors challenged the executive team to say, we've got to do things that we've been planning to do that takes usually 3 to 5 years. Do it in the next 3 to 5 months. We've got to try to get a lot more innovative. And what the client did was they realized that there's this new trend where people were working from home. There's this advent of athleisure wear or work from home types of product lines that they could quickly design and bring to market. And they started doing that. And what was important was that their entire community, the entire vendor base, mill base, component supplier base, packaging, label providers were all connected on the single platform. So they're able to make that shift very quickly, get first dibs of production from those vendors, start bringing that product to market, started investing in their last mile technology so they can deliver the product to the actual homes of people. And they actually saw a tremendous increase in sales and revenue during the pandemic when their competitors were still struggling. So this is just a succinct example of what it means to have agility in a system that's fully, in an ecosystem that is fully digitized.
Great, thanks, Chirag. And I think that story and kind of how we saw a lot of our clients leveraging the multi-enterprise approach during the pandemic was a great kind of stress test on that concept. And I think it really proved itself. So that was very exciting. I'll talk about the next two quickly as we see some questions come in. But I think they really speak to kind of that bedrock that you build with your multi-enterprise platform and your digital twin, and then really just thinking of it as kind of a maturity framework as you evolve to a control tower where you're taking all that data, engagement, transaction, the data from the documents you're managing on the platform and bringing it into those control tower dashboards, and really allowing your users, regardless of their role, their seniority, their priorities, to get the information they need, to get the alerts they need, and to quickly navigate across the system and quickly collaborate with their colleagues and partners to manage these disruptions and events that are occurring, that they're really able to visualize via the sourcing control tower, for example. And then on the automation side, we see a lot of opportunity as organizations get more mature and start to automate processes like Luke talked about, to focus their teams on more innovative and more exciting projects that can really build the business forward, help to transform the business, help to transform revenue models, introduce new digital services, including, even for our most advanced clients, sourcing services for internal and external stakeholders. So a lot of exciting things to unpack there, and keep an eye out for some of those concepts in future webinars. And then finally, we've talked a little bit about ESG. I want to talk about it a little bit more here in the key takeaways. We feel that the kind of framework that our platform and the scope of our enterprise applications provides, from that product development and that view into the product and the raw materials or ingredients that are going into that product, as well as the view into the suppliers and partners that are providing those ingredients, manufacturing those products, transporting those products, really effectively covers many of the emerging ESG requirements that we're seeing clients and broader members of the market encounter around, monitoring what goes into their product, monitoring how they're, where their product's manufactured, how it's transported, all of those things. So those are very exciting areas for us. And then finally, operationally, it can also provide a good view into how those different operations or partner operations are impacting the planet, and any adjustments that might be able to be made there as well. And of course, all within the context of a core business process system. So again, connecting those emerging initiatives to your core system and processes, instead of having that ESG initiative or effort or team siloed from the rest of the organization. So let's jump into some questions. I'll let you guys decide who should take this one. I think we talked a lot about engaging cross-functionally today, right? So bringing additional teams on to work closely with the sourcing team to, Luke, like you talked about, give better insight into cost. In terms of when clients are just starting to work with us, where do you guys see the sourcing team starting to connect early in the organization to drive some of that early value? Luke, Shrag?
Yeah, sorry, Nate, with audio difficulty. Yeah, so what it starts with is bringing on board all the different participants that have a decision that influences how you're going to source and cost that product. So when we typically see with our clients is, as part of an initiative, we guide our clients on how to invite their partner community, external partner community, to understand the value that they'll get by being on this platform, the ROI that they get to be on the platform and participate in this digital sourcing environment, and then start onboarding internal users and external users. In some cases, we've seen a lot of clients just mandate their vendors to be part of this platform because they know that at the end of the day, it's going to drive phenomenal value and ROI for them. So that's how we sort of start that journey of getting that community built, as part of our our programs.
Great, thank you. Here's another question that came in. As a retailer without a PLM at the moment, are there examples of who's doing this well today?
Yeah, we have a lot of blue chip clients that are doing this very well without having a PLM system. They could still integrate with a PLM system, output into our sourcing application, our PO application, and really create that digital hub to drive those digital operations. So we can definitely follow up and provide some very good case studies and examples of leaders in softline retail department stores, about 5 or 6 that we think have done a phenomenal job in the last couple of years.
Great, thanks, Shrag. We'll be sure to follow up there. And then finally, a question that I see pretty often, but also a great question, is I think the importance of gaining buy-in and adoption from partners who are working with our core retail and brand and manufacturing clients. Luke and Shrag, do you see approaches that help to get that buy-in and get that engagement and adoption of the platform that ultimately drives the value and data quality that makes Bamboo Rose important and valuable within different organizations?
Yeah, I can start off. Oh,
Yeah,
go ahead, Chirag.
No, please go ahead, Luke.
I say, yeah, Nate, I think, Chirag already hit on this a little bit, but, early in the partnership, we really recommend that client executives connect with the members of their community to let them know what the change is coming and how it'll benefit them. I mean, at the end of the day, we've been doing digital transformation for so long, and some of those basic building blocks are still relevant. When you look at a multi-enterprise platform, it's really got to provide value to every member that's connected to it. So, for, the retailer or brand, maybe it's, insights and automation through the process and helping them be proactive and reactive to changes in events. Or for the partners, maybe it's early visibility into what types of commitment clients are going to come, so they can secure financing for production, or even leveraging a service like ours in supply chain financing. So it's really core to a successful multi-enterprise platform and connected digital community is that you lay out the benefits for all members.
Absolutely, and I think Chirag alluded to a few slides ago about the reduced vendor cost of sale that can be driven through digital collaboration on the platform as well. All right, that looks like it's it for questions today. So I want to thank everyone so much for joining. Thanks for your attention and interest in this webinar. I hope it was valuable. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out via info@bamboorose.com or by filling out a form on bamboorose.com. Additionally, I want to mention that we have some great marketing assets that cover some of these topics. If you go to our webinar section, there's a great Sourcing Journal webinar that covers some of these issues. And additionally, we're working closely with an organization called Retail Touchpoints on a white paper that will cover a lot of these themes as well, which should be out as soon as next week. So we'll be sure to send that to all registrants and attendees as well. So with that, Luke and Chirag, thank you so much for joining today. I think it was a really interesting conversation. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Nate. Thanks everybody for joining.
Nate. Thanks everybody.